It's another edition of Region Football Weekly here in our Centier Bank studios on the Region Sports Network, getting you set and ready for week number 9. I'm Jack Thiel, of course, alongside me, Mike Dewan. You could call us the Blues Brothers.
Yeah, look
with
at
us with our matching quarter zips today.
We planned this, by the way.
Our producer, Zach Sinelli, is wearing Blackhawks. That's okay because the Blackhawks got their first win of the year. But excited to talk about the last regular season week of region football. I mean, next week's going to be sectionals for a lot of teams. Some other teams will get some buys, but this is really the last regular season for all these teams. So a lot of senior nights, but also a lot of opportunity for some of these teams to get on track for postseason play. And, of course, if you've seen our show over the season, we go over our bubble teams and, of course, our RSN top 10. And then Dr. Locks, Mike DeLon, will pick his games that we'll discuss. And some of them, one of them, I should say, is actually one of our game nights built by Von Tobel that we'll discuss during the show. So now time for the bubble teams. We have 5 bubble teams, and the first one is the Andrean 59ers. 3-5 on the year. They lost to Hanover Central 33-9, a very tough game for them. I mean, the offense wasn't really doing much, 46 rushing yards, 177 total yards of offense. The line gave up 4 sacks, but Ballantyne still had a decent game, 131 passing yards, 39 rushing yards, and a touchdown. Jaden Holmes had 7 tackles, and Ibaka Ukoi had 7 tackles and 2 sacks. But they have a very big matchup as well this week at Lowell, the Battle of Blue Bloods. Lost to Lowell last year, 28-13. They've split the last 14 meetings down the middle. A big game for Andrean just because, look, does a Lowell win really give you a lot in terms of moving up in our bubble rankings? Maybe not, but in terms of getting ready for postseason, you know, the great Billy Bean said, if you've ever seen the movie Moneyball, it does not matter unless you win the last game of the season. And I think that's the case here for a lot of teams just because, I guess for Andrean, I mean, they would be going into postseason with a 3-game losing streak if they were to lose this game. So it just makes it even more important, and they have to go to the Inferno. But still, this is a team with a lot of talent. Ballantyne is one of the best quarterbacks in the area, and their defense has had multiple contributions over the weeks. And, of course, Finley, one of their DBs, now receivers, who's having himself a terrific year. This is a game where they really just need to shift the momentum into their favor.
Yeah, that's a tough loss for Andrean. That's one they really wanted, of course, with battle of now 1 and 2 in the NCC. It was a chance for them to win a share, and it just the offense was kind of the X factor, I think, for this game, and it just didn't perform. It's credit to Hanover. We'll talk about them later, but they are a very solid team that shut out a pretty solid Andrean offense that was really hungry for a win after their loss to Chittard. And now we move on to Lowell, and that's probably one of the better. I'd call it a rivalry.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'd say in the area again.
Blue Bloods
split the last 14 meetings. That was one of the I had to look at that research because I know that those are always bloodbaths. They're always last week of the season, usually an NCC titles on the line like it was last year, and it's always a fun one. I know these teams are kind of struggling as of late. The records maybe not show for it, but expect a lot of talent on both sides, on both sidelines, and it should be a good one. But for Andrean, again, they're playing, I'd say, tougher teams in the past few weeks, and they're probably going to see in the postseason. They're a two-way school, and they usually have a lot of success in the at least in the sectional round of postseason play. And again, it's tough to kind of go into at least these past 2 games. They on the wrong side of things, lost the last 2, but it's this game for Lowell. It's again a pretty solid team going to a hostile environment. We're going to talk about a lot of playoff-like tests in week 9 that gets you ready for the new season, which is postseason. So it'll be a fun one. I think Andrean's looking to get back on the right foot as they get ready for 2-way sectionals.
Yeah, definitely tested. 4 of their 5 losses are against teams in our RSN top 10. Of course, the only one loss was, Chittard, who is all the way in Indianapolis, but they're still as good as it gets.
I think they're ranked number 1 in the state.
Yeah,
for
I mean, they would be in our RSN top 10 if we covered them. But nevertheless, 4 of the 5 losses against RSN top 10 teams, very hard for them, but it also prepares them for the postseason.
Completely.
Number 14, a team that we haven't really talked about all year, but you were pretty hopeful about them a little bit last week. The Calumet Warriors, 3-5. They beat Griffith 26-15. They started 1-4. Now they've won 2 of their last 3. They were down 15-6 in the third, but were able to come back. Now they're 2-1 in the GSSC South. Javen Lawrence, 3 catches for 130 yards, a touchdown and interception, including a 96-yard touchdown. Alex Ponce, 18 tackles and 1.5 sacks. Next is Westside, is a huge test, potentially a new rivalry in the making. If they were to win and Wheeler was going to lose, they would get a share of the GSSC South. We'll talk about Wheeler a little bit more later in our show, but here's the Calumet Warriors. We kind of mentioned it last week, a couple of teams who we didn't really talk about, and all of a sudden, here they are. And we have a couple of those in, our bubble teams in our top 10, throughout the show. But for the Calumet Warriors, going into that game, they've had some brutal losses to start the year. But, look, Griffith, obviously people may not think they're that good because they only have one senior. But this is still a very tough Griffith team.
Yeah.
And going down 15-6 in the third quarter and being able to come back just because Griffith runs a very slow and they kill the clock with their run game. So it's not like you get the ball a lot of times against Griffith. They're going to run the ball, waste some time. So for Calumet to really control that and get the ball back and have enough possessions to where you were able to come back and have an 11-point win really is impressive.
Yeah, Calumet was, I think, start of the year, they were a ranked team of ours. They were, I believe, in the 8th spot.
Really?
They started the year on the wrong foot. They lost to a...
Was it Morton, I believe?
It was Plymouth.
Plymouth.
Lost to Plymouth,
okay.
who have not won a game in 2 years.
It was.
So, that was... we know Calumet was going through a bunch of changes, of course, transfer and graduation, but it's... Again, they've bounced back a little bit. The record may not be there to show for it, but they've made themselves competitive in their division. And again, with the Wheeler loss, and if they take care of business against a solid West Side team that we'll talk about later, they could win a share of that division title. And it's credit to Calumet, of course, beating a solid Griffith team that has been sputtering as of late. They were a former bubble team of ours, but Griffith, like you said, they pound the rock. They know how to chew the clock, and going down 15-6 in the third, a 2-score game, that's tough to overcome against a Griffith team that knows how to run the football. And Calumet, they have some big play guys like Javon Lawrence, and they're more of a balanced offense. I think that they throw the ball, they could run the ball, and they got some pieces on the defense too that could make plays. But shout out to them. We're the voice of the voiceless here. If you're not, if you deserve a spot in our bubble, we're going to give it to you, no matter what your record is or kind of who you're playing. But it's Calumet, again, a big game against Westside. We're going to talk about that later, but I know that's kind of a rivalry game. I remember vividly from our pigskin party in August, a Westside player was pointing out he wants Calumet. It's going to be, again, this is, with Westside coming into the GSSC, it's kind of the conference's new rivalry, I'd say, especially in Week 9 where a lot of implications are on the table. So it'll be a fun one.
Yeah, Calumet definitely playing the right football they want to. Have had a postseason. Now for number 13, the Lake Central Indians, 4-4, but 3-3 in their conference. It's really been an up and down season for them. They lost Friday night on senior night against the Maryville Pirates, 38-9. So they haven't beat Maryville since 2017, which was also their last senior night win. And if the result wasn't bad enough, well, Xavier Williams did not play that game. He missed, I believe 3 games in the middle of the year. Came back the last 2 against Michigan City and Chesterton, and then he's out against Maryville. Also, starting quarterback Chase Kwiatkowski got injured during the game. Didn't come back in the second half. The backup quarterback actually scored a touchdown for Lake Central, their only touchdown in the game. So not sure the status of Kwiatkowski, but he did get hurt during the game and did not come back. They were leading 3-0. It was an early field goal for the Indians on their first drive, but the Maryville Pirates, they have been really impressive this year. Outscoring Lake Central 38-6 since that field goal. Marion Brooks, though, did have a really good game, and he's really stepped up in a key role just because he is the starting secondary, and he's the starting return man, and now he's the starting running back when Xavier Williams is out. So he's really, we talk about guys playing 2 ways. He plays 3 ways.
Yeah.
He plays running back, he plays cornerback, and he plays return man.
Very few water breaks for the kid.
Yeah, absolutely. And, it's not expected for him to play running back all the time, but when he is the backup, he has to step up, and that's what he's done, and he's done a good job. 89 rushing yards, 19 carries. But we talk about that 3-game gauntlet for Lake Central. Now, it started well with that win against Chesterton. Obviously, things didn't go well against Maryville. Things get a little harder now. At Valpo, where it's senior night for the Vikings. They haven't beat them since 2016. And for Valpo, this is another team who's playing really good football. Maybe one of the best teams in the region. It is a playoff-like game for them just because it's really I don't think they're gonna face anybody tougher than Valpo, I guess, until they might meet Crown Point in the sectional finals. We'll obviously talk about that more probably later. But for Lake Central, they are going to I don't know if it's necessarily vital and crucial to win this game, but I think it's really important to show some fight, to show some improvement from last week, because losing that bad at home is never a good look, especially on senior night. Especially when, there are a lot of fans go out to senior night, and, you and I were there for that homecoming game, and, all those people are distraught over that result. And it was a very close game. Both teams played hard, but when you lose that big at home, that's the Lake Central we've seen over the years. The Lake Central that lost against Michigan City or at Chesterton even, that was a different Lake Central than years past. But that team that we saw last week was kind of the team that we've been seeing probably since the last time they beat Valpo back in 2016. And they really got to turn the ship quick as possible because, like we said, at Valpo, it's senior night there. They've got a lot of seniors that they're going to be celebrating. And, I mean, the Vikings, they're just as good as fans as they can get. They come to the games, they cheer on their team, and it's going to be a rowdy atmosphere. And like I said, there's two of their best players. We don't know what's happening with them this week. We don't know what the status is. Obviously, with Williams, it was kind of a shock to see just because he played the last two games, and he never came out of those two games. No. And for Chase Kwiatkowski, left that first half. We don't know the extent of the injury, so who knows if he's going to start. Are there any limitations to him? But for Lake Central, they haven't won back-to-back games, but they also haven't lost back-to-back games. So I guess, your half glass, full kind of personality or mindset is the fact that they should win because they haven't lost back-to-back games all year. We'll see if that comes true, but for Lake Central, a lot of things that you're going to have to work on to get ready for postseason against Valpo.
I think it starts with the health of those two. Again, your two biggest offensive weapons, their status is in the balance, and I credit Lake Central's backups. They played okay against Maryville, but I think those are two pieces that you need against a very solid Valparaiso squad, especially going to that hostile environment where a lot of seniors will be celebrated, and it's going to be a big crowd. And again, like we're saying, it's a playoff-like game. It's top of the competition you could probably get in the area, and they got to show some fight. Again, it's an uphill battle for Lake Central, especially if they're maybe left without one of their two players, but they have to show me something going into postseason play. They open up with Portage, I believe, in the 6A sectional, which is, again, you can never count it as a win, but it's a good start, I'd say. But they have to show me something to stay in this list and to at least have some sense of promise going into postseason play and that first bye week.
Yeah, if they want any of their season to advance further than sectionals, most likely it's Crown Point they'll have to play, and we know
it's inevitable.
We know how Crown Point is. Obviously, Crown Point's out to win their game, but it seems like that is the most likely sectional championship matchup, and that'd be a rematch of two teams that faced off earlier in the year. Now time for number 12, the Hammond Central Wolves, 5-3 on the year. They bounced back with a 44-6 win over East Chicago. Now Deshaun Woods, it seemed like he did not play. There were no stats recorded for him, but Bryce Brandon, the freshman, he had 4 carries for 105 yards and a touchdown. Gio Bailey-Hanna had 4 tackles, all for loss, and a sack. So a good sign for Hammond Central to get back on track. We don't know Deshaun Woods if he did or didn't play. It seems like he didn't just because everyone else had stats and he didn't.
Yeah.
And we do know that he was taken out early against Hammond Morton about 2 weeks ago. So
could be injury. Who knows?
We don't know what's going on with that. We're not going to speculate or anything. Nevertheless, things get hard this week. At Hanover Central, it's the first meeting between schools, kind of like Lake Central, another playoff-like matchup just because it's really not going to get as good as Hanover Central probably just because how good they're 8-0, one of the best teams in the region. And, we talk about got teams like Indrain. I mean, even Hammond Central, those teams that aren't in your conference, and you schedule those games that are really hard for Hammond Central. I mean, obviously, like we mentioned, going all the way and playing a Chula Vista East Lake team, I mean, that's pretty hard. That's not easy to do. Pioneer, another team. So they've been tested, but I don't think it gets more, test-worthy than Hanover Central at Hanover Central because even though, look, they're 8-0, they're pretty solidified as one of the top teams in the area, they're still playing for an undefeated season.
Yeah.
And those kids would really want that. And like I say, you don't want to end the regular season with a loss. I think especially if you're 8-0, because that just leaves a sour taste in your mouth. You won 8 in a row, and then you lose the last game of the year. Now you have to play the next week with that sour taste. But for Hammond Central, we asked what can they do outside of Deshaun Woods. We saw a little bit of Bryce Brandon, the freshman, so there's something there other than Deshaun Woods. But for them to, I would say, even have a chance against Hanover Central, they got to find this passing game. It's got to start there.
Yeah, it's, again, credit to their win against East Chicago. I think that was kind of a test, to see who are these other offensive weapons that we don't really haven't found yet. Again, we know how fantastic Deshaun Woods has been through the course of the year, but with him, sidelined out, you have to find somebody else to turn to. He can't be the guy, especially come postseason play, that you have to rely on all the time. Teams are going to key in on him. They're going to do their film. Again, you can't really stop him. You can only contain him, but I think still that's a solid containment of him will be enough to prevail over Hammond Central. So they have to find out other weapons, which they kind of did against East Chicago. Again, this is probably a much bigger test going to Hanover Central. Again, another playoff environment where seniors are being honored, and it's going to be a packed house. But they have to. I think Week 9 is probably the most important week of the regular season. Outside, probably more important than Week 1. I'd say it's a litmus test to see where the team is at the end of the year, and again, riding that momentum to the postseason play at the biggest time of the year. So, Hammond, again, it's an uphill battle. You have to fight, and you have to find those offensive weapons in case Woods isn't playing. But you have to grow as a team and realize that you just cannot rely on Woods to do it all. Yeah. Again, big win against East Chicago. Gets a lot harder here. We're going to have to see where they stand in a very competitive team in Hanover Central. Yeah,
our next bubble team and our last bubble team, the Morton Governors, 4-4 on the year. A tough but high-scoring loss against Hobart, 65-38. They were leading 20-3 after the first quarter and 26-10 in the second. Dontrell Harris, he had 2 big touchdown plays in that first quarter. And LeBron Hill, he had a huge kickoff return to start off the game and a couple of nice catches as well, but the defense was just not there for him. We'll talk a little bit more about that Hobart offense in our show. But they play East Chicago, chance for them to bounce back. Haven't lost to them since 2013, and a win will give the outright GLAC title. Before Morton, we saw a lot of things you would like on tape, but we also saw a lot of things that you want to fix, and I think the defense is obviously the number one thing, especially considering they had a 26-10 lead. And you and I were watching that game, and we kind of were like, where's Hobart? Is this Morton? Is Morton going to get this huge win at Hobart? And things really just flipped the switch in that second half. Yeah. I'm not sure what it was. I'm not sure if Hobart saw something that Morton was doing on defense they're exploiting. But nevertheless, for Morton, obviously you like to score 38 points, but you don't like to give up 65.
No. If you score 38 points, you should hopefully win the game.
Yeah, you feel pretty good.
It's especially being up 26-10. Again, credit to Hobart. We'll talk about them later. But, yeah, Morton, you got to finish the game. You guys started out hot. We kind of talked about the turnover battle, and they won that to start. I think 26-10. That was right after they had a scoop and score. And then, the special teams from LeBron Hill and others it was great. They were winning all phases of the game to start, and then Hobart saw something, and it completely switched. So, got to flush it. Got to move on to next week. Got to have a mind of a goldfish like Ted Lasso, and it's on to the next one. So, it's a tough one to swallow. That's a game I think you want going into the Brickyard and beating a very solid Hobart team that we'll talk about later. But we saw some positives, saw some negatives, and we got to move on to East Chicago. I think a pretty fair contest. I think that's one they could handle, and it's you don't want to call it a walkover, but you got to kind of. I think it's a benefit of having a test in that Week 9, especially going into the bye week for the 5A and 6A schools next week. You gotta show me something at least a little bit where you can compete with a solid team, which I think they did against Hobart. I think that was more of a playoff environment that I think they're going to see this Friday or this Saturday, I should say, against East Chicago. I believe they play them on Saturday, but it's again favorable contest. Got to kind of sharpen up those edges you get. Those weaknesses you had against Hobart and show me you get better against East Chicago and get right into the postseason play on a good note.
Yeah, once again, East Chicago they'll play. We'll see how they respond after that tough loss. We're going to take a break here on Region Football Weekly in our Sentier Bank studios, but you're watching this on the Region Sports Network, the only game in town.
Update your kitchen or bathroom with Von Tobel. Get 20% off select cabinets now through October 28th. Von Tobel has cabinets and vanities in a range of styles and colors. Plus, built-in storage, countertops, and flooring. Our designers will help you find the perfect selections for your style and budget. Scan to visit VonTobels.com today to book your free consultation at one of our 4 Indiana showrooms. Von Tobel, building better together.
When life takes you places and you can't get to the store, shop online with Strack and Van Til To Go. Our to-go service is easy to use and it can save you time and money. Once your order is in, our own Strack and Van Til team preps your order with care. For delivery or pickup, enjoy the convenience of letting our to-go team shop for you. Enjoy your special moments. Sign up online today at shop.strackandvantil.com.
Hi, I'm Crowell Company's Lantern Man. I'll cover your motorcycle. I'll be with you on the water. I'll be with you on the snow. I'll cover your insurance needs wherever you go. I'll be at Crowell Agency from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. As Crowell Company's Lantern Man, I'm your insurance superhero.
Crowell Companies, the insurance professionals in Highland, Maryville, and Michigan City.
From schools to stadiums, hospitals, and bridges, everywhere you look, union carpenters are building Indiana. With jobs and skilled trades in high demand, there's never been a better time to start building your future. As an apprentice, you'll earn a debt-free college degree, earn while you learn, and receive great benefits like healthcare and retirement. So what are you waiting for? Visit carpenters.com to learn more. Visit carpenters.com and start building your future today.
Thinking about what to do after high school? Consider a career with Boilermakers Local 374. As a Boilermaker apprentice, you'll earn while you learn. We offer excellent wages and benefits, and as part of our no-cost hands-on apprenticeship program, you'll learn from the best in state-of-the-art training centers and on the job. Become a union Boilermaker and get on your way to a great career. Find out more, visit www.local374.org or call 219-845-1000.
Have you checked out Centier Bank's student checking account? This no-fee checking account is perfect for students and teens ages 14 to 24 and comes with all the features you need to succeed, such as a debit card, digital banking, and automatic deposit. Centier Bank can help you start establishing good spending habits today for your better tomorrow. For more information, visit Centier.com/student-checking or visit your local branch. If you are under the age of 18, your parent or guardian must also sign on the Centier student checking account. At the age of 25, your account will automatically convert to the Centier checking account. You must deposit $25 to open this account. This account is not eligible for overdraft advantage. Member FDIC.
Quintel Incorporated is a family-owned and operated company located in Northwest Indiana that specializes in the reconditioning, repair, and remanufacturing of heat exchangers. Since 1994, Quintel has been handling jobs of all sizes throughout the country. Equipped with the most modern technology and advanced tools, Quintel provides top-notch service. When you trust Quintel for all your needs, you'll get peace of mind and a finished job that exceeds your expectations. For more info about Quintel and the services they provide, visit quintel-inc.com.
Back here on Region Football Weekly in our Centier Bank studios. If you're just joining us, we went over our bubble teams. I'm Jack Thiel. Alongside me, Mike Dewan, Zach Snelly producing today's show. Now it's time to go on the RSN Top 10. And boy, is it shaking up a little bit after last week's results. And what do I mean by that? Well, our number 10 team, first time all year in the top 10. Got to give them some love. It's the KV Cougars. 4-4 on the year now, 2-3 in their conference. A win against Highland, 49-12. It's their third straight win. It's their second win over Highland since 2014. 200th career win for Kirk Kennedy. And boy, did their players play last Friday night. Marco Castro, junior running back, 154 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns. Junior quarterback, Diego Arroyo, 268 passing yards and 4 touchdowns. Lane Zander, 5 catches, 181 yards, and a punt return for a touchdown. The Cougars are playing some of their best football right now, and their last test will be against the Munster Mustangs. A win equals their second 5-win regular season since 2015, and they haven't lost to Munster since 2018, so definitely some, if you want to go historical, a lot of history on their side against this matchup with Munster. And for the KV Cougars, we kind of talked about it off air, this is a team that wasn't even in our bubble last week, jumping all the way to number 10. And it's because when you have a trio of Castro, Arroyo, and Zander playing the way they do, well, that's top 10 worthy.
Completely. Again, they weren't even in our bubble, I think, at all this year. And I got to give credit, especially their last 2 games. They go to Highland, I think a game where I thought it'd be pretty close. Mm-hmm. Again, 2 solid teams in the NCC, and they run them out the water. And they played Lowell the week before, and I don't know if they'd beaten Lowell. I thought it was like 12, 14-something years that they were saying, and they smoked them again. They've showed me a lot in these past 2 weeks. And again, we talked about it on our wrap-up show, but shout out Coach Kennedy, of course, for getting that 200th win. You can't tell the story of Northwest Indiana football without mentioning his name, and he's putting another program on the map. I kind of said, we know what he did with Lowell, and then KV. I know they're a young team. Again, Marco Castro and Diego Arroyo are both juniors. Mm-hmm. They're kind of that 2-headed beast in the backfield for KV, but Lane Zander too. He's shown that he could again kind of stretch the field. He's kind of that receiver that makes this offense more balanced and not just reliable on the legs of Marco Castro, who think he's now top 5 in the area in rushing.
Yeah.
But Xander, yeah, he's a threat. Over the top. Obviously, what he did against Highland was fantastic, and he could return a couple punts as well. I know he had a solid game against Hobart, which, very interestingly enough, they could be a matchup in the 4A sectional, I believe, semis. And KV, again, what they've shown me, and if they continue to show me again against Munster, they could really be a threat in that 4A sectional. And it should be, they've really turned this year around. Again, 3rd straight win. They have a chance to actually have a winning season for, second time since 2015. And things are looking good in KV. And I think it's credit to Kirk Kennedy with what he's doing with the kids. And they're looking solid, is all I could say. I think that very favorable matchup against Munster, and I think they could be a real threat in the 4A sectional.
Yeah, definitely playing the right football, especially because
the right time.
In the beginning of the year and the middle, they kind of were up and down, but now we're finally seeing some consistency with 3 straight wins. We talked about how, after the Hobart loss, it wasn't that bad. I mean, obviously their offense gave up more than 50 points, but they only lost by 5.
Yeah.
They were in that game for the whole time. So for KV, yeah, you look at that loss, and it is a loss. But at the end of the day, they've played with one of the better teams in the region. And here they are now playing some of their best football, 3 straight wins, a chance to go 4 straight wins. And when you have your juniors really leading the pack, it's great signs for the KV Cougars.
Yeah, and their schedule is pretty beneficial, too. I think in that 1-4 start that they had, they kind of got those tough teams in the NCC out of the way pretty quickly. I know they played Hanover pretty early. I think they lost kind of a close one at Andran, and then Hobart was a tough lost by 5. But now they kind of play, Munster, Highland, and Lowell, who's usually a team that's a tough match on their schedule, but Lowell's kind of having a down year. But these are kind of teams you kind of want to, not necessarily cakewalk games, but teams that kind of build the confidence up, get you ready, get morale pretty high for the postseason play and get some wins under your belt. So we'll see what they do against Munster. I'm expecting probably another favorable matchup, and it's hopefully ride that momentum into the 4A sectional.
Yeah, coming in at number 9, it's another team named the Cougars, but what side? West Side. The West Side Cougars, number 9, 5-3 on the year. They defeated Bishop Knoll 68-8, and boy, can they produce some running backs. It's now the 4th straight season with a 1,000-yard rusher. They had a 459 rushing yards specifically, last week against Bishop Knoll. They've won 4 of their last 5. They're second place in the GSSC South in their first year. Amari and Yarborough, we talk about him throughout the year. That's because he is electric in the backfield. 101 rushing yards and 3 touchdowns. Giuseppe Moore, another guy who is electric in that backfield. 137 rushing yards. We talked about Calumet, one of our bubble teams. A win for them and a Wheeler loss will be a share of the titles. So a lot of teams are hoping Wheeler loses their
scoreboard
game.
Watching a little bit,
But for the West Side Cougars, this is a team that's playing really good football. And look, we talk about how teams can be one-dimensional in the run game, and that may be the case for the West Side Cougars, but it's not just one guy doing all the work. We've seen 2 guys, maybe 3 guys in a game doing all the work, and obviously Yarborough, Giuseppe Moore, and that only equals 238 rushing yards. So outside of those 2 guys, you're having at least over 200 rushing yards from other players on that team. So they're playing really great football. Like we said, 4 of their last 5. Calumet, who's getting hot as well. That seems like a barn burner between those 2 teams. Definitely, you mentioned it, kind of a rivalry brewing
I think so.
in that conference. But for West Side, this is a team who steadily made their way up, in our bubble team a couple of times, and for the first time, they're in the top 10.
Yeah, they're I'd say probably one of the hottest teams around the area, other than our number 8 team we'll talk about next. But they mentioned that they might be RBU. Running Back University. I saw that on their Twitter. They're very active on social medias, which we appreciate. We got to give them a shout out there. But again, 4 straight seasons with a 1,000-yard rusher. That's a lot of good O-line play as well. Shout out the big boys, but got to respect the guys actually carrying the ball. And Amarian Yalber is one of the better ones in the area. I think he's top 5 as well in the rushing yards leaders, and he's a guy to kind of carry the load. But Giuseppe Moore, he's the quarterback. He could throw it, but he's also great with his legs. He had a huge play against Bishop Knoll, I think a 60-plus yard rushing touchdown. And they got some guys, man. They're deep, as you mentioned. They had 200-plus rushing yards just from guys not named Amarian Yalber and Giuseppe Moore. They have some guys that can carry the load as well, and shout out the O-line. It starts and ends with them, and they know what they could do, and they're going to ask you to stop it. So we'll see what they do against Calumet. I think that's going to be a very fun game. And I think it's, again, a battle of probably 2 of the conference's better teams. Records may not show for it especially for Calumet. But these are two very talented teams, and it's going to be a good one. And again, I think this is another chapter in one of the conference's newest rivalries.
Now, you kind of foreshadow it with our number 8 team, and yeah, they are probably the hottest team other than our top 2 teams in our RSN top 10. It's the Wheeler Bearcats, 5-3, 5-1 in the conference now, 35-0 win over the Whiting Oilers. 5 straight wins when they started 0-3. It's their first year under head coach Nick Testa. They finished last in the GSSC South last year. A win this Friday night gives them that title for the first time since 2015. And this is a team, we said, one of the hottest. Well, they're outscoring their opponents 189-52 in their last 5 games, and it's because of the aerial attack. The quarterback, Klimzak, he showed it against the Oilers. 15-21, 172 passing yards and a touchdown. And he has a best friend, and his name is Bryce Compton. 7 catches for 104 yards. Those two are just locked. And I was looking at some of the stats before we did our show, and, you want to talk about peanut butter and jelly. You want bread and butter. It's those two guys right there. They just go together so well, and I think that they're one of the most exciting duos in the region. But also you can't forget about Jaden Ortiz, the running back. He had a huge game against Whiting, 125 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns. This is a very balanced offensive attack for the Bearcats. Next game is Griffith. We talked about it. A win would give them their first GSSC South title since 2015, where they go from worst to first. Griffith, they're not going to make it easy for them just because Griffith is a tough team to beat. Phil Mason, of course, the head coach for those Panthers. But for the Wheeler Bearcats, it's really how much hotter can you get, because they do have an impressive win over Boone Grove, another one of our top 10 teams. And now they're stringing along 5 straight wins. And Griffith would be another nice one. Obviously, Griffith is not ranked or in our bubble, but still a win against Griffith really gets the wheels turning. They do have a bye in their sectional, so things are really going well for the Wheeler Bearcats. They do have that brand new football stadium. I believe it was just built last year or this past year.
This is their first season on it.
Yeah. So brand new coach, brand new football field, and boy, are the wheels turning for the Bearcats.
And we'll be there. That's one of our game nights built by Von Tobel. When they play Griffith, that's a very big game between two teams that I personally think will be in our preseason top 10 next year. They're so young. Griffith and Wheeler are very talented, both probably some of the better junior production we'll see in the area. But we start with Wheeler. It's, again, credit to Nick Testa coming in and turning this program around. It was tough sledding last year. I think they went winless in the division, and it's been night and day. It starts with the offense: Klimzak, Ortiz, and Compton, 3 juniors that do it on all passing and throwing. They've really carried the load, but the defense has been very solid, as we mentioned in those numbers of 189-52 in the last 5. That's the best football you could just about play, and it's all momentum game. Griffith, that's going to be a very solid contest, I think, for teams they're going to see in that 3A sectional. Yeah. It's nice having that bye, especially they're the lone team with a bye. That's very fortunate of them to get that bye, and it's going to be a dogfight, I think, at Wheeler. We're going to be happy to be a part of it, but it's a very young team, and it's a very promising future. And again, shout out to Nick Testa for putting these guys in this situation, a chance to clinch their first South title since 2015.
Who knows if they want that bye at this point? The way they're playing,
a good point.
Do you really want a week off? Because, look, obviously everyone wants a bye because it gives you a week to rest, get healthy. But when you're playing like the Wheeler Bearcats, if they were to go on that bye 6 straight wins, do you really want to take the week off?
It's very interesting. I think it's going to be a lot of inter-squad scrimmages. I think they're going to – it's, again, as somebody who's kind of been through that bye week, it's an interesting dynamic because you want to stay loose, you want to stay your mind focused, but you don't want to drift away too far from what the task is at hand, and that's winning a couple playoff games, getting some hardware, and it's tough. It's a blessing and a curse. Of course, you want to rest. Yeah. Maybe if they have any injuries, who we do not know of, it's important to get guys healthy and ready for that semifinal game, but they got to stay locked in. But it starts with Griffith, of course. That's going to be a big game, and again, keep riding that momentum, get their 6th or 8th win, and again, clinch that title. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, a team definitely that's riding on momentum is our number 17, the Boone Grove Wolves, 6-2 overall, 5-1 in the conference. They defeated Lake Station 63-6. It's their 4th game with over 52 points scored, their 2nd straight as well. The stats I'm about to tell you, it's like you're playing rookie mode on Madden 24.
Yeah.
Mark Rowland, 13-16, 265 yards, not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, not 5, 6 touchdowns for the young man. He threw to 11 different receivers, and he had 6 different players catch a touchdown. So each touchdown was caught by a different player.
The love.
Well, hey, let's go to defense. They had not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, not 5, 6 interceptions, including 2 by Jonathan Tague, the senior. They have Bishop Knoll this weekend. This is a big game for them, not because of the opponent, because there's a brand new football field for the Boone Grove Wolves, finally opening and ready to be played on. $10 million field, a seating capacity of 2,500. But we were told by close people with the Boone Grove Wolves, they expect 3,000 people at this game Friday night, including most former players with the Boone Grove Wolves will be in attendance, and I believe at halftime they'll be walking across the field because it's just a new historic moment for this Boone Grove team. I mean, I've seen pictures of the field off their Twitter and Facebook accounts, and it is beautiful. Mm-hmm. This is one state-of-the-art football field, and I'm excited to see how they look on that just because, look, is Boone Grove the biggest school? No. But still, this is a football team that's playing some of the most exciting football we've seen in the area. Obvious starts with the quarterback, Mark Rowland, just because he's putting up video game numbers. He's one of the top passing leaders, not just in the region, but in the state of Indiana. A win would also give them their first GSSC division title since 2019. Obviously, I think that Boone Grove is the favorites in this one. But it's going to be really cool to see those players because I'm sure they've practiced on that field. I'm sure they've definitely done some drills on there. But under the lights, Friday night, packed house. I mean, I'm sure those kids are very excited for Friday night.
It's good for them. They deserve it. They've been got a pretty solid program. This is definitely a step up from what we saw last year from the team. But it's a big moment for the community and the players of past, present, and future.
Absolutely.
It's huge. And obviously we mentioned that it's going to be a big turnout. But it's kind of more than just a game, you know. It's a symbolic reason for, hey, we're kind of doing things now. We got the program to where we want it to be, and we finally done it. You know, unfortunately, it was scheduled to open early September, but finally we've come here and we're getting ready for the postseason play with a brand new facility, and it's a powerful moment. You know, I know they were playing at Valparaiso in years past, and then Wheeler most of this year, but it's they got it now finally. It's props to them, but yeah, they're solid. They're a solid little team they got going on over there. Again, it starts with Mark Rowland. He's, I think the first guy in the area to reach 2,000 yards this year, the sole member of the 2,000-yard passing club. He's making a case for himself to be an all-area quarterback on one of our all-area teams that we're probably going to come out eventually. We'll get to it, but again, shout out to the way he's been playing. And again, receivers are getting open. They're catching touchdowns, whether it's six different guys, or the Noonan twins or Torps, and they get open. It trickles down, and they're, again, a team I think that's going to be back here next year as well. They got some young talent, Mike Rowland and some other guys that are, again, kind of painting the picture for, with this field as well. I mean, they're painting the picture for what Boone Grove football is how it's supposed to be played, and it's past, present, and future. It's going to be a powerful moment up there at the stadium, and I think they're going to get the job done against Bishop Knoll, kind of riding into the two-way sectional, and that'll be fun. The two-way, we kind of saw that with the pairings coming out last Sunday, and that's going to be we'll talk about that. We'll cross that bridge when we get there, but again, it's going to be a powerful Friday night at Boone Grove, and happy for them to finally get this finalized. And the turnout, I bet it's going to be incredible, and I think they're going to put a show. Not only just the field itself, but I think they're going to put a show on the field as well against Bishop Knoll, against a team that I think they're pretty favorable against, and I think they're going to clinch that first division title in a couple years. So again, shout out to the Wolves, and again, that's a team to be worried about in postseason play. I'll tell you that. Another team that has a big week ahead of them is the number 6 team, or the Michigan City Wolves, 5-3 on the year, 4-2 in the DAC. They've really picked up things, especially since they defeated LaPorte 35-0. Bounce back win after last year's loss against them. They've only given up 8 points in the last 2 weeks, and it's really quite the turnaround because they were 2-8 last year and only 1 win in the conference. And Cody French has really done a good job turning around that program. Jaden Hart, he seems back to normal. Just because, when I say back to normal, because the numbers he was putting up last year, really the first weeks weren't the same numbers, but from, I would say, about week 5 to week 8, or I guess week 9 now, is the numbers we saw last year. And it's 141 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns in that win. Kyron Hart, 3 catches for 53 yards. Zaire McKinney, he had 3 catches for 63 yards and a touchdown. We talked about it. Why is it a big week for these Wolves?
go to Crown Point on senior night, a chance to play spoiler because the Bulldogs, I mean, everything's going well for them. Obviously, they're undefeated, and this is a team that's no one's beat yet. They have records and streaks that go all the way back to last year.
Yeah.
So for Michigan City, it's definitely, they got their, hands full, but a great way for them to tune up for the playoffs, just because if they want their season to really advance any further, most likely we'll have to meet up with Valpo. Mm-hmm. That's going to be a really good game. And how do you get tested for a Valpo team? Well, you play a team like Crown Point.
That beat them.
So you play a team like Crown Point for Michigan City. It's going to be really hard. It's obviously going to start with Jaden Hart. Yeah. Obviously, Tyler Bush, the quarterback, can throw it and run it. This is a team that really likes to spread their offense with Benjamin Martin, Elijah Collins, and, of course, Kyron Hart, a guy who's really rising as a freshman.
Yeah,
but for Michigan City, it's how are you going into this week? Just because they are playing some of their better football. It seems like now they're more comfortable under Cody French's system. They kind of are learning. They know it. They know it with their eyes closed. Maybe at first, a couple signals, a couple plays, a couple calls they didn't know, they were a little confused on. But now it seems like everyone's on the same page. Everybody knows what they're expected to do. And, this is a dangerous Michigan City team. And for Crown Point, and we'll talk about them, obviously later, but for Michigan City, this is the football you want to play going into this matchup.
Yeah, I mean, again, credit to their turnaround. If there was like a Coach of the Year at a new program award, if Nick Testa wasn't doing the things at Wheeler, I think Cody French would probably win that award. But it's quite the turnaround from what they've had. I think it starts with the offense. Defense has been playing well. Don't get me wrong, 8 points given up in the last 2 weeks. But offense, I was fortunate enough to talk to Coach French at the Munster All-Ram, and he mentions how deep that receiver room is. Of course, you have Jaden Hart, who's been playing fantastic as of late, who's been kind of carrying the load on the offensive side of things. But you don't see many freshmen playing in the DAC.
No.
Kyron Hart, again, if there was an all-freshman team that we did, I think he makes that by default. He might be the only guy on there.
He was a big part for that win over Lake Central on that drive.
He probably catch of the year from at least what we saw. And then Zaire McKinney, again, a sophomore receiver, he's a big play threat too, alongside Benjamin Martin and
Cameron Bell, another guy
Cameron
we
Bell,
forgot to talk about.
They got plenty of pieces over there and they're deep. This team I don't think is going away. I think everyone's again kind of finally buying into that system. But now we move on to a bigger beast in Crown Point. Yeah. Again, like we're saying, if you're not going to win the conference, which it's unfortunate, it happens. Someone's got to win it and someone's got to lose it, but. This is probably the next best thing. Again, very solid team, but you get to play spoiler. You get to spoil senior night at Crown Point, the beast of the area from what they say. And undefeated team, a lot is riding on this game for the opposition. And Michigan City has a chance to spoil all that. And I'm sure that's going to juice those guys up. And I'm sure they'll be ready to go into a hostile environment and, again, hopefully soak in this playoff environment against one of the best teams, I'd say, in the state right now.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting also because Crown Point, they came off a close game that we'll talk about later in our show. So I think that's going to be one of the best games in the area. Of course, it's a top 10 matchup in our RSN rankings. We're going to take a break here on Region Football Weekly, and after that, we're going to go to our top 5 as you're watching this on the Region Sports Network, the only game in town.
With electrical services from Economy Electric Heating and Cooling, you can radiate the perfect amount of light and energy into your home. From rewiring and code upgrades to ceiling fans, lighting, security, and more, Economy Electric Heating and Cooling's trained electricians will make sure you can enjoy your home on full power all the time. For a free estimate on electrical work, call Economy Electric Heating and Cooling at 219-923-4441, and you can visit them on the web at forajobdoneright.com. That's the number 4ajobdoneright.com.
Earn while you learn from the best hands in the business. The Bricklayers Allied Craftworkers for Indiana, Kentucky Apprenticeship. That's right, this is a paid apprenticeship.
I'm getting an education while learning a trade and getting paid for it.
The thing that surprised me the most about this apprenticeship program is the respect I've received after the proper time and training.
Classes start soon, so apply now. There are training centers throughout Indiana and Kentucky. We are the Bricklayers and Allied Craftworkers for Indiana, Kentucky Apprenticeship. The best hands in the business.
For over 100 years, Burns Funeral Home and Crematory has been assisting families in their time of need. Serving Northwest Indiana, the staff at Burns Funeral Home will help guide your family in creating a meaningful ceremony. From a simple to elaborate to traditional or unique, the caring family at Burns Funeral Home will tailor a ceremony to fit your needs. And for your other loved ones, Burns Funeral now has a pet cemetery and crematory. Visit burnsfuneral.com or give them a call at 219-942-1117.
Blythe's Team Sports in Valparaiso is a leader in athletics apparel and equipment sales. With in-house production including screen printing, trophies, embroidery, and more, Blythe's can help you to create the perfect look. For more information, visit them online at teamblythes.com. Blythe's Team Sports in Valparaiso, where the athletes shop.
Back here on Region Football Weekly Edition number 9. Week number 9 already here. Jack Thiel, Mike Dewan, of course, Zach Sinelli producing today's show. If you're just joining us, we've gone over our bubble teams and our RSN 10 through 6. Now it's time for the number 5 team. And spoiler, the top 5 didn't really change because they all did their job Friday night. And number 5 is the Hobart Brickies, 6-2. 4-1 in their conference, a huge high-scoring win over Morton, 65-38. Kind of talked about earlier, they were down 26-10 in the second quarter. Then they scored 21 unanswered points to take a 5-point lead into halftime. The offense was video game numbers. Johnny Sorensen, the quarterback, 288 total yards and 4 passing touchdowns. Willie Shear, the running back, 251 total yards, 41 carries. And no, I'm not kidding. No, there are no typos on
that
this.
Hurts me. That hurts me.
41, the ex-fullback, 41 carries. You know, we talk about TJ Caldwell, and we will in about 5 seconds, but another guy who was a bright spot, Aiden Leonard, the junior, 5 catches for 94 yards and a touchdown. And, of course, TJ Caldwell, he got his bag as well. 7 catches, 84 yards, 3 touchdowns. Huge win for them. Highland, well, bad news for Highland.
I don't want to jinx this.
I don't want to jinx it, but they do say there's a broadcaster's jinx. We'll see if that comes true. 26-0 all-time against the Trojans. Hopefully I do not jinx that, but they haven't lost to them at all. Never, ever in the history of Hobart Brickie and Highland Trojan football.
Though I found that research,
but the win would equal the first time a 7+ regular season wins since 2020. Yeah. So definitely a lot of momentum for them. No, they're not going to be conference champions, but still, that's a huge accolade to have. Since 2020, it gets them set for playoff time. They have New Prairie in the sectionals. We'll talk about that probably a little later next week. But for the Hobart Brickies, this is another offense that's well-balanced. Johnny Sorensen, he can throw it, he can run it. Really, Shahir, well, I guess we know he can. I mean, if you're going to ask what his limit is, now you can say like 40 carries, I guess, the way he played. I mean, and then, of course, we talk about TJ Caldwell all the time, but Aiden Leonard coming from the shadows, a really big bright spot for him to come up and have a huge game. And like we said, Highland never lost to them yet, and a chance for them to go 7-2 ahead of postseason.
Yeah, not winning. I know Hobart. They are a pretty passionate fan base, and not winning the NCC, especially to a team that just entered in their first year, it may be seen as a down year, but again, 7 wins their first time since 2020, accomplishing that feat if they take care of business against Highland. That's a very solid. That's promising for the Brickie faithful, hopefully, and for this team. As you mentioned, I don't know what was said in that second quarter, but they turned it around pretty quickly against Morton, and they were down in the dumps in a minute, and then obviously the offense came alive. As we mentioned, Johnny Sorensen spread the ball around. Aiden Leonard, again, really a nice game for him to have against a very solid opponent in Morton, and again, you have to kind of look for that other weapon. We have Willie Shearer, who obviously can carry the load 41 different times on the offensive side, and TJ Caldwell has been one of the better receivers in the area, potential first-team All-Area. But now Aiden Leonard, I think that was his first touchdown catch of the year, and he had a couple of nice snags, and that's somebody you need to kind of, if someone's keying in on Caldwell or Shearer, you have another weapon to worry about. And shout out to him on that offense for turning it around and hanging 65 on a solid Morton defense. Now we look to Highland, again, favorable matchup as we see historically there. That's a game that they usually finish the season out strong in Week 9, and they have to do the same again. New Prairie, that's a quick turnaround, going to New Prairie, and that's going to be a very solid game in the 4A opener of the sectionals, and just got to keep things going, keep the offense scoring, hopefully hold teams to less than 38 points. I don't know if the offense could. They've shown that they can put up a lot of points, but I don't know if they could live with scoring 65, 55 points every week. It's got to play the complementary football, and they got to start strong and end strong, and that's how you kind of, again, get that momentum going for a tough New Prairie team come next week.
Yeah, historically good against Highland, and it's funny how we mentioned Highland. Highland football has been pretty prominent over the years in the region, and it's important because it's also important to remember the region. Now, of course, we have a couple of VHS tapes. You've been seeing us hold up these things for quite a while now. You're probably wondering, what are these things? Well, there we have tapes, we have VHSs, maybe some CDs. I'm not sure what else we have. We have a lot. Cassette tapes, do we have that maybe?
Probably.
We have everything. But, you can go look at this. 1998 football, September 25th, Highland at Indrain. We have Crown Point and Lake Central sectional, maybe something we see this year.
There you go.
Of course, we have Indrain and Westside, a bubble team, and, of course, one of our RSN top 10 teams that played in 1971. Now, I don't know if I'm reading this right, but next to their names, the score says 74-72. I don't know if that's the actual score. But those are the numbers against or on the side of them. But it also is very important to remember the region. We have a GoFundMe up right now, and that link will be on the screen. But we want to get all the help we can get to really save these types of moments, these memories. And just because there's a lot of region football, it runs through a lot of families, and a lot of people who used to play want to remember these days. You want to show your kids, your grandkids, what were you like in high school? Your football days. I'm sure, when you get older, Mike DeWan, you were the fullback and, played for the Munster Mustangs and everything. I'm sure you're going to tell, family members when you get older about that. And maybe, one day someone's going to ask you a little younger than you, like, hey, how'd you look? And you want to show them that.
Yeah, show my grandkids. Yeah, pull out a CD, unlike these things or whatever we have.
But that's the thing. It's like,
the laptop,
it's so hard to really, with, obviously the advancement of technology, it's so hard to keep these things in good condition because, well, they're getting old. And like I said, with your help, we have that GoFundMe. Any type of help is amazing. We really appreciate it. We've had a couple of people so far help us, and we couldn't be more thankful for that. And like I said, if you want to remember the region, all these amazing memories, maybe you want to hear the old-time broadcasters. Maybe you want to, like I said, maybe someone used to play back in the 80s, the 90s, and once you get older, the 2000s, early 2000s, and you want to relive those days. You want to remember that. You want to watch those. Well, this is your chance because we would be more than happy to help you relive those days, but we also just need help from you, the viewers, as well. So,
how could you say no to that? That's he could sell water to a well. I say it every week, but it's, again, we're writing history now, as we're going through things, but eventually time passes, and, like we're seeing here, we have a crazy collection of just how much, it just shows how much football means to us in the area. We know they say it's a basketball state, but kind of up here, football's really been, it's kind of reigning king, at least from the words of our executive producer, Chris Ramirez. Football is king, and as we see here with our collection, we have tons of stuff, and as Jack mentioned, there's a lot of reasons why we want to keep this stuff alive. It's, maybe you show it to a grandkid or generations, after you, or you keep it kind of in, it was a big game for your family or something, big game for the school or the town, and it's, again, what we're doing here is we want you guys, we want to keep this all alive. And again, remember the region. You go check out the link at our Linktree, social media platforms, wherever you can find it. It'll help us out a lot. Help us kind of keep history alive as we're writing it now. But it's football's king up here, and we want to keep it that way. And we could, again, watch games like this if we keep this thing alive, and that's what we're doing here. So go check out that link below, and help us remember it. So.
Yeah, remember the region. Any help is amazing, and thank you all for always helping us throughout the years, and we really hope you guys see the love and appreciation like we do for these types of things.
Yep.
All right, now time for the number 4 team. It's going to be the Maryville Pirates, 6-2, 4-2 in the DAC. Huge win at the Burial Grounds against Lake Central, 38-9. Really one of their best conference performances of the year for the Pirates. In fact, it's the 4th time they've held a team to single digits. This defense has really stepped up, and the offense as well has gotten better over the weeks. Dante Pope, 3 touchdowns on the ground, 49 rushing yards. J.Q. Johnson, 133 rushing yards. Of course, Trey Stevens, who came back in the middle of the year, 9 tackles, 1 for loss, 64 rushing yards as well. Chesterton, very tough team to play. They're upset by them last year, 35-10. A win gives them their 5th straight 7+ win regular season. For Maryville, we kind of talked about them in their sectional last week and foreshadowed a little bit, but for the Pirates, really playing some of their best football as well. And, we obviously started this year with talking about them and Crown Point, and, things didn't go their way against Crown Point, and they kind of were quiet. They weren't really putting up the points, and then they're winning by defense. And now it seems like they're putting everything back together, kind of like in the beginning of the year. The offense and defense did have its bright spots. And then after that Crown Point loss, it was more of a defensive team. And then a couple weeks later, then they started to get the offensive mojo going. And now, like I said, it seems like they're finally that complete team that Brad Cease has been wanting.
Yeah, shout out to them. A win against Chesterton, it's a tough team to play. Luckily, they're at home instead of going there like they did last year in that unfortunate upset. But with a win, I mean, they've shown that they're one of the most consistent programs in the area, and I got to give credit to Coach Cease and the players, of course, from this year and years past. They've shown that they're a team not to mess with, and they're going to get at least 7 wins every year. And they're, it's like you're saying, their identity was defense, I think, going after the first few games. And then once they kind of sputtered after Crown Point, they had to win games through their defense, and the offense was kind of nowhere to be found. But in these past few weeks, the offense has shown me a lot. And again, Dante Pope, J.Q. Johnson, Trey Stevens, kind of the two-way player, John Peters as well on the outside, who also plays 2 ways. There's some pieces that, again, they're trying to find to get things going, in a very winnable sectional. I know they play Munster, I believe, after that bye week, and then they have the Hammonds in the lower part of the sectional. So I think it's theirs to lose. And I think Chesterton, I think it's still the test.
Yeah.
Chesterton, I believe they have 2 wins on the year, but I don't think that matters. They've shown that they can compete. Chesterton can, no matter what the record is of the team against them, that we'll talk about later, of course, how they competed last Friday. But Maryville, again, keep showing me things. Keep riding that momentum into that bye week, and I think they'll be okay, this Friday and beyond. So we'll see. But again, shout out to Maryville. They've really turned things around a little bit. Although they have been winning games, they're kind of doing them now more dominantly, I think, as they should be. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Once again, they play Chesterton senior night for the Pirates. We're going to take a timeout here on Region Football Weekly in our Sent to Your Bank studios as you're watching this on the Region Sports Network, the only game in town.
Update your kitchen or bathroom with Von Tobel. Get 20% off select cabinets now through October 28th. Von Tobel has cabinets and vanities in a range of styles and colors. Plus, built-in storage, countertops, and flooring. Our designers will help you find the perfect selections for your style and budget. Scan to visit VonTobels.com today to book your free consultation at one of our 4 Indiana showrooms. Von Tobel. Building better together.
When life takes you places and you can't get to the store, shop online with Strack and Van Til To Go. Our to-go service is easy to use, and it can save you time and money. Once your order is in, our own Strack and Van Til team preps your order with care. For delivery or pickup, enjoy the convenience of letting our to-go team shop for you. Enjoy your special moments. Sign up online today at shop.strackandvantil.com.
Hi, I'm Crowell Company's Lantern Man. I'll cover your motorcycle. I'll be with you on the water. I'll be with you on the snow. I'll cover your insurance needs wherever you go. I'll be at Crowell Agency from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. As Crowell Company's Lantern Man, I'm your insurance superhero.
Crowell Companies, the insurance professionals in Highland, Maryville, and Michigan City.
From schools to stadiums, hospitals, and bridges, everywhere you look, union carpenters are building Indiana. With jobs and skilled trades in high demand, There's never been a better time to start building your future. As an apprentice, you'll earn a debt-free college degree, earn while you learn, and receive great benefits like healthcare and retirement. So what are you waiting for? Visit carpenters.com to learn more. Visit carpenters.com and start building your future today.
Thinking about what to do after high school? Consider a career with Boilermakers Local 374. As a Boilermaker apprentice, you'll earn while you learn. We offer excellent wages and benefits, and as part of our no-cost hands-on apprenticeship program, you'll learn from the best in state-of-the-art training centers and on the job. Become a union Boilermaker and get on your way to a great career. Find out more, visit www.local374.org or call 219-845-1000.
Have you checked out Centier Bank's student checking account? This no-fee checking account is perfect for students and teens ages 14 to 24 and comes with all the features you need to succeed, such as a debit card, digital banking, and automatic deposit. Centier Bank can help you start establishing good spending habits today for your better tomorrow. For more information, visit Centier.com/student-checking or visit your local branch. If you are under the age of 18, your parent or guardian must also sign on the Centier student checking account. At the age of 25, your account will automatically convert to the Centier checking account. You must deposit $25 to open this account. This account is not eligible for overdraft advantage. Member FDIC.
Quintel Incorporated is a family-owned and operated company located in Northwest Indiana that specializes in the reconditioning, repair, and remanufacturing of heat exchangers. Since 1994, Quintel has been handling jobs of all sizes throughout the country. Equipped with the most modern technology and advanced tools, Quintel provides top-notch service. When you trust Quintel for all your needs, you'll get peace of mind and a finished job that exceeds your expectations. For more info about Quintel and the services they provide, visit quintel-inc.com.
Back here on Region Football Weekly in our Centier Bank studios, it's time to go over our top three teams in the RSN top 10, and number 3 will be the Valparaiso Vikings. 6-2 on the year, 5-1 in the conference. They defeated Portage 42-6. It's been that next man up mentality for Valpo. Obviously, Davis hasn't played in the last couple of games, and now Justin Clark, who went down with an injury and didn't return in the game. Now, maybe they're being safe with him just because they did have a sizable lead against Portage, so maybe not trying to risk a bigger injury for their starting quarterback. But the backup, Andrew Elkhorn, really stepped in. 11-15, 141 passing yards and 2 touchdowns. They also had Logan Prusnick, 6 catches for 67 yards, and Carter Emmett, 3 catches for 72 yards. 2 receivers that usually we don't talk about really stepping up for the Vikings, and Sammy Ampliotis, 13 tackles on the defensive end. We talked about how Lake Central senior night for the Vikings. They haven't lost to them since 2016. Obviously, we don't know about Justin Clark. Davis hasn't played the last couple of weeks. I don't think he's going to play again this week. It doesn't seem like that. Obviously, Thomas Berta has seemed like the guy for Valpo, but you know, I don't want to speculate, but we have 2 teams that have injuries in the same positions at quarterback and running back.
True.
Weird to think about that. Obviously, you want everybody to be healthy, but for the Vikings, it's really been next man mentality, and they've done a really good job at it just because without Davis, Berta has looked like the guy. Like, it seems like their offense has been just doing the same that they would be doing with Davis in the lineup. So for them to really have the same production, have the same results, this is a Valpo team where even if someone's out for an injury or whatever the case may be, they have somebody that can fill in those shoes and really produce about the same output that one guy ahead of them would.
Yeah, that's, again, we kind of talked about it. With a state championship winning team like last year, you have that experience and you know what it takes to be the next man up. Now, it sucks for Valpo, of course. They've gone through some injuries like we just mentioned. But, again, shout out to Andrew Elkhorn. He didn't have, from what I saw, he didn't have many stats recorded this year. He would just come in and kind of back up relief for when games are out of hand, and he had to take a couple snaps for Justin Clark. But, with him going down in the second quarter, Elkhorn stepped up. And, I mean, he's not much of a runner like Clark is, but Valpo was kind of known for just running the ball, and they didn't throw it too much. And what we saw – I don't think we've talked about Logan Prusnick or Carter Emmett at all this year because they were, again, receivers that were, again, not saying that were faltered by the incredible run game of Valpo, but they don't really get to show their skills because Valpo is a dominant run team, as we've shown with Clark and Davis, and now they're both out, and we got to turn the next man up. We had Berta, but now we had to find another backup quarterback that, in Clark's relief, and he filled that role, with flying colors. Again, shout out to him coming and stepping up, and again, a DAC environment. Again, maybe it's not the most toughest opponent at Portage, but they started out slow and they needed kind of a jump, a spark, and I think it was 6-0 in the first quarter, and he kind of added an element to that offense that they were really desperately needing, I think, this year. And again, who knows? It's course to have your starters there, you guys that experienced state championship winning players, but we know Valpo has those guys that can fill in at any time of need, and if they need another passing spark, Alcorn might be that guy to spread the ball around the field, while Clark is kind of more of that running guy. But now it's on to Lake Central. I think we're going to, again, senior night, I think these top 3 teams, especially, it's going to be a very emotional senior night. For Valpo, I think especially they have a lot of senior talent.
Yeah.
And I think they're going to see a lot of turnover next year, but we'll cross that bridge when we get there. But again, I think they've won multiple straight sectionals, regionals, and then of course the state title, all from the senior class. All they know what to do is win, and it's going to be a very emotional game, but they got to take care of business against an LC team that's also depleted and looking to get back on track prior to sectionals. So
yeah, absolutely. Now for the number 2 team, the Hanover Central Wildcats. You can't really play as better as they're playing 8-0, 6-0 in their conference. They defeated Andrain 33-9. They won the outright NCC title for the first time because it's their first year. 1 year, 1 title. That's it's very impressive. And what makes it even more impressive is that they outscored their 6 conference opponents 262-76 on that run. And it's been Kuntz, the quarterback, 224 passing yards. He had 5 total touchdowns in that game. Of course, Caden Barrett, 130 rushing yards. Henry Maurer, the junior, 5 catches, 65 yards, and 2 scores. We talked about their matchup with Hammond Central this Friday night. First meeting between both schools. It's senior night for Hanover Central, and although this is their first year in the NCC, this is a senior class that has had a lot of accomplishments, 3 conference titles, 1 sectional championship, maybe even another sectional championship.
Yeah, they're not done yet.
By the time the season's over, but this is a Hanover Central team that's really gaining a lot of respect, not just from Region Sports, but from a lot of high school media outlets in the area. I believe they were top 3 in their class in the AP poll for them.
I want to say so.
I think so. I'm not 100% sure, but definitely top 5.
Yeah.
And they've played like that. I mean, 8-0, you can't really say anything else. The offense is there every week. The defense is there when they need it. It's been Kuntz, it's been Verrett, it's been, Maurer, it's been Bartolomeo, another receiver, Rocco. So this is another balanced offensive attack that really makes you stress as a defensive coordinator, that makes you stress as a defensive player because you really don't know what to do. You want to stop Kuntz, that's okay. Caden Verrett's right there. Mm-hmm. You want to really focus on Caden Verrett, well, Kuntz can throw and run the ball.
Right.
So you're really trying to keep tabs on all these players and all these great things they do. Well, you're running out of space to keep those tabs, So for the Hanover Central Wildcats, I think they're going to keep the ball rolling. This out of sectionals, they feel it's probably as good as anybody in the region, because what's better than going into a conference your first year and winning that title?
Yeah, they might need to make an ESPN 30 for 30 out of that. That's very impressive. Again, former NCC guy here. It's tough for me to, going into the year, imagine a team that walks into the conference and goes undefeated.
Yeah, it's not like they won games. They dominated.
Yeah, 262-76. I mean, it's a big testament to the coaching staff for getting them ready for the conference. And the players, of course, I bet they played all season with the chip on their shoulder. I bet they heard it all, that you're not going to survive in this conference. You're not going to be able to take your starters out at halftime like you usually were able to do in the GSSC, and they've kept that same mentality. They're still blowing out teams. Again, going to an Andrain environment that maybe not be the Andrain of years past, but we talked about playing on grass for the first time this year.
Yeah, we did.
I think that was no problem. I think they started out maybe a little bit slower than they liked, but again, they still beat Andrain by 20 points. They're a wagon, as we would say. Yeah. They are a tough team.
I think a wagon's lightly putting it. They are a train.
Yeah, I mean they could very well be the number 1 ranked team. I think we should probably put 1A, 1B. We'll talk about Crown Point in a little bit. Yeah. Spoiler alert: they're our number 1 again. But about Hanover, they're tough. They're tough. They're again very favorable against Hammond Central. It's going to be another emotional senior night, I bet. Again, this is a team that they have some junior pieces, Caden Verrett especially, that are going to be back next year, and I think they're still going to be a very solid team to worry about. But Matt Kuntz is leaving, Colin Foy, a couple other guys that are big pieces to the puzzle, and especially to the success that they've had for the past 4 years. And I don't think they want to end here. We mentioned that their accolades with this class of 2024, but they're looking for some postseason success, and we'll cross the bridge when we get there. But it's they got to start here. And Hammond Central, very very favorable opponent, I think, and I think they're going to roll again and keep their season unblemished, and we'll see about postseason play. But again, credit to them for running the table in their first year in the NCC.
Well, Mike Dewan took like 10% of my job. He told you who the number 1 team was.
Sorry, guys. Sorry.
But it is no shock. It is the Crown Point Bulldogs. I mean, do you remember when they were number 1? When you put them number 1 for the first time? Was that week 2?
We started
because Valpo lost to Penn.
I think that
was. So since week 2, Crown Point has been the number 1 team, and they really distanced themselves from anybody other than or Hanover, I should say. Chesterton, I was about to say, is because they played a close game against them, 21-7, 7-7 in the third. We really haven't seen that from Valpo, but we expected that from Valpo. Now, credit, we did not think this game was going to be a blowout. We did say that Chesterton plays a lot of teams close.
Yes.
They only lost to Valpo by 14. And at home for Chesterton, we saw right there that they really gave Crown Point a fight. But, hey, they got the job done. They clinched at least a share of the DAC title. Obviously, a win against Michigan City will give them the outright 14 straight wins on the road. That's over 3 seasons.
That's insane.
So that's basically over all the years that Coach Craig Bazia has been the head coach for the Crown Point Bulldogs.
So to pump the brakes on that, I mean,
all right.
Sorry, but I mean,
it's impressive. It is
to go into playing in the DAC conference and to go in probably the most hostile environments in the area.
Yeah.
Again, 14 straight road games. That's no joke. And again, I just had to pump the brakes there, and credit to the coaching staff and the players from these past few seasons to always get the job done in the most hostile environments. So go on. Sorry, I had to, man. That's
now Dewanna's taken 20% of.
I know. I'm getting there. Folks. I'm getting there.
No, but nevertheless, Larry Ellison 2 touchdowns, Lennon Delich a touchdown. But you know what? We talk about this varsity team so much. It's time to give love to the future Bulldogs. The JV program has won 19 games in a row according to their Twitter account. So, yeah, we talk about varsity football. But let's give some love to the JV kids on that team. They're the ones really preparing the varsity team week in and week out, and 19 wins in a row. We talked about Michigan City Friday night, Bulldog Stadium, senior night. It could really be their second straight undefeated regular season. Obviously, we know about their loss in sectionals last year against Lafayette Jefferson, but this could mark their second straight undefeated DAC season for sure. And, of course, like we said, regular season undefeated. It's very impressive just because you do not see this in the DAC at all. And the DAC is so competitive with how many teams are in it. You might see a team go undefeated here and there, but 2 years in a row, that's something you don't see that often.
It's probably one of the better 2-run stretches in the area.
Yeah.
I mean, up there with Hanover, of course, both of these guys, but it's what Crown Point's doing against the area's best competition. It's no joke. And I did want to mention, again, the future Bulldogs. It's credit to Crown Point's Twitter. They're one of the more active active programs, I'd say, on their Twitter with letting us know about how things are going and the stats and all that. And they filled us in about the JV. And, again, this is a program that's not just top-heavy. It's going to be an emotional senior night, of course, as we mentioned with the previous 2 teams we talked about, because how much they've done in just the past 2 seasons. Of course, the Clark brothers will be off to Buffalo after this year, and a couple other guys, Landon Delich, who's been one of the better receivers, I'd say, in the area, at least the conference. And it's going to be emotional, but this is I'd say a pretty big test, bringing in Michigan City. Luckily, you're at home. It's going to be an emotional environment, hostile. It's going to be packed, but I think they probably will get the job done and, again, cap off another unblemished season, finish off one of the 2 best regular season stretches. But this is another playoff environment. What they struggled with last year, they ran the table in the DAC in the regular season, but they lost the opener to Lafayette Jefferson. Now, I know they opened with them in the 6A.
Talk about deja vu.
I mean, after that bye, it should be interesting. I bet they got a chip on their shoulder, and I don't know if they're at home or not. I don't remember.
I'm not sure
who's
yet
at the bottom, but I think we'll cross the bridge when we get there. I keep saying that, but it's, again, ride that momentum. That's really it. Finish out strong against a talented city team, and it's, again, shout out to the Bulldogs for the run they've been in, not only at the varsity level but the JV level. They're not going away anytime soon from what we see.
Yeah, Crown Point, senior night, Michigan City. It's an RSN top 10 matchup. Should be a lot of fun, and what's going to be a lot of fun is what we're going to do after the break. We're going to do our games to discuss, and Mike Dewan will give his picks he's doing pretty good on the year so far. I'll give him some credit for that.
There we go.
Well,
30% of the job now. I'm coming.
Well, let's take a break here on Region Football Weekly in our Centier Bank Studios on the Region Sports Network, the only game in town.
With electrical services from Economy Electric Heating and Cooling, you can radiate the perfect amount of light and energy into your home. From rewiring and code upgrades to ceiling fans, lighting, security, and more, Economy Electric Heating and Cooling's trained electricians will make sure you can enjoy your home on full power all the time. For a free estimate on electrical work, call Economy Electric Heating and Cooling at 219-923-4441, and you can visit them on the web at 4ajobdoneright.com. That's the number 4ajobdoneright.com.
Earn while you learn from the best hands in the business. The Bricklayers Allied Craftworkers for Indiana, Kentucky Apprenticeship. That's right, this is a paid apprenticeship.
I'm getting an education while learning a trade and getting paid for it.
The thing that surprised me the most about this apprenticeship program is the respect I've received after the proper time and training.
Classes start soon, so apply now. There are training centers throughout Indiana and Kentucky. We are the Bricklayers and Allied Craftworkers for Indiana, Kentucky Apprenticeship. The best hands in the business.
For over 100 years, Burns Funeral Home and Crematory has been assisting families in their time of need. Serving Northwest Indiana, the staff at Burns Funeral Home will help guide your family in creating a meaningful ceremony. From a simple to elaborate to traditional or unique, the caring family at Burns Funeral Home will tailor a ceremony to fit your needs. And for your other loved ones, Burns Funeral now has a pet cemetery and crematory. Visit burnsfuneral.com or give them a call at 219-942-1117.
Blythe's Team Sports in Valparaiso is a leader in athletics apparel and equipment sales. With in-house production including screen printing, trophies, embroidery, and more, Blythe's can help you to create the perfect look. For more information, visit them online at teamblythes.com. Blythe's Team Sports in Valparaiso, where the athletes shop.
Back here on Region Football Weekly, again, you set for week number 9, and as we get to the end of the show, you know what time it is. It is our games to discuss. Of course, the man that sits next to me every week, he's doing pretty good this year. 15-5 overall. You know what the red lights mean. It's decision time. He went 3-0 last week, so definitely going. That's 2 undefeated weeks for you, Mike. You had the 5-0 week, I believe, 2 weeks ago, and of course 3-0 last week. Oh. So 15-5 overall. We're going to do 4 games this week. We'll give you a little bit more of a challenge. 3 games, we'll let you off the hook with that one.
That's fair.
So our first game is going to be one of our bubble teams in Drain at Lowell to the Inferno, a battle of blue bloods. For both teams, I guess I should say, trying to get some momentum going into postseason. For Drain, they've lost a couple of games in a row. They lost to Hanover Central last week. Of course, Chittard 2 weeks ago. Trying to get back on track. I believe it's going to have to come from Ballantyne because the quarterback, he's been the leader for Drain, but it's not easy to go to Lowell, especially when these two teams, like you say, it's a battle at the end of the year every year. Usually it's for something more than just a win or a loss, maybe for a title or, but for this one, it's kind of like bragging rights in a way.
I'm thinking about it, man. We looked at the weather a little bit. It's supposed to rain all week.
Yes, it is.
And I think this is going to be kind of a run game. And Lowell, it's a nasty place to play in a rainy environment. Okay. The Inferno is one of the best, I'd say, most scariest places to play, at least I've experienced. It's not a fun place to play being on the road, especially with all this rain coming down. And You know, I thought about it. I think Andrean was kind of. I know how big they are on the pass. Scotty Valentine, again, one of the most prolific passers in the area in Andrean history, which is saying a lot. And he's got the receivers to reel in those passes. Jimmy Finley, Jones, they got all the guys over there. But I don't know. I think with the rain coming down, I initially said Andrean. I got the Lowell jersey here. I think I'm going to go actually with the Devils.
Wow.
I switched it up. I just told Jack at the break, we got the red here. I liked Andrean, but I just thought, the rain coming down, Andrean hasn't really found their run game that much.
Mm-hmm.
They haven't found that guy to pound the rock like the Drake Bowen of last year.
Yeah.
They just handed him the ball and go get me 5-6 yards. But now Lowell, I think that they're built on the run, and I think with this weather that we're having, I think they're going to win this dogfight. I say they win by. It's going to be another close matchup like they always have. I'm going to say they win by 3. The Devils. I know I switched it. I switched it up on you a little bit, but I'm
switching it up on me. But Mike
Dewan
goes.
I'm going to go with the Devils.
Lowell Red Devils, the home team.
The weather plays in their favor, and being at home of course they're both grass fields, Andrean and Lowell, but I think they get the job done in the sloppy weather they're going to have.
Our second game features a bubble team, one of our RSN top 10, the Calumet Warriors. We're going to go play the West Side Cougars. For Calumet, a team, well, I guess I say for both teams, really catching heat at the right time. But for Calumet, rough start to the year. Now they've kind of gotten back on track. And for the West Side Cougars, or I should say RBU, the number 9 team in our RSN top 10, we know the rushing attack they have. But for Calumet, they just beat a team with a heavy rushing attack in Griffith. So they're going to kind of have to face the same thing. Now, West Side probably has a better rushing game than Griffith, but it's still expecting the same run offense. It's going to be one of those ground and pound games. They're going to try to kill the clock as much as possible. And, we've seen Calumet win a game like that.
Yeah, it's going to be a little bit chippy, I think. It's going to be a good game. Again, I think a great rivalry game that's kind of coming up in the GSSC. Calumet, I'd say, definitely more of a balanced offense. They're going to spread the ball around a little bit. They got the big players to do that. But West Side, I think they've had so much success running the ball. They're going to be at home. I think they're going to be juiced up, ready to go. I know Calumet's won the past 2 and the only 2 meetings against each other, but I think this is a different year. So I'm going to take the West Side Cougars. Orange,
yeah, it's a little.
That's a little tough to see.
Maybe we can make it darker.
We promise that is there.
A little bit. It's a little light, but
I'm gonna take the Cougars here. I think they got the running game to do it. Giuseppe Moore, Amar and Yalber. They're again two guys that could really beat you with their legs, and I think they could do that again. And again, they're gonna kind of be scoreboard watching. We're gonna talk about the Griffith Wheeler game in a little bit, but it's been a good year for West Side, and I think they keep it up on Friday at home.
So another home team for Mike Dewan. We'll see if he picks another home team. It's a top 10 matchup in our RSN rankings. Number 6 Michigan City goes to Bulldog Stadium to face off against the number 1 Crown Point Bulldogs. Michigan City playing some of their best football, including Jaden Hart, the Syracuse commit running back. Of course, Crown Point, like we talked about, all the road wins they've had in a row, all the regular season wins they've had in a row, all the DAC wins they've had in a row. This team is as impressive as it gets, not just this year, but for the past years. It's going to be hard for Michigan City, but I do believe this is going to be a lot closer than your usual Crown Point home wins, because when people go to Crown Point, that's when things get a little out of control. I don't know. Crown Point's only played one probably 4-quarter game at home. That was Valpo. Other than that, I think the starters have only played one half and every other home game for them. Yeah. So I don't think that's the case. I think that the starters will have to be out there all 4 quarters. I believe this is probably going to be a 2-score game. I can see it being like 35-21. I think this is a Michigan City offense that can really spread things out, but this is also a Crown Point team that we know can make adjustments, one of the best head coaches in the area, and a lot of senior leaders who are being celebrated, especially, like you said, the Clark brothers, Landon Delich. A lot of their key players are seniors, and you can speak on it, obviously, as you're a former high school football player, that it means more no matter what your record is, no matter who you're playing, no matter what's going on. The win on your senior night, it's something you will remember. It's something that you take a lot of pride in, and I think that's the case with Crown Point just because how strong their football program is and how strong their support is from the Crown Point faithful.
You got it. I mean, even if you're lucky enough to maybe get a scheduled home game in the playoffs, it doesn't really hit the same. Senior night is
the flowers. You have your family.
Your family's walking you out on the field. I get chills kind of thinking about it. It's a sad night. I mean, it's bittersweet, of course. You do it with the guys that you probably been playing with for years and years, and it's kind of that last chapter of the book of your senior year, just about for many, and it's. I think I'm going to ride with the home guys again. I think you mentioned that there's the CP Red here, but you mentioned that it's going to be, I think, a close game. I'll say I think the weather, again, it
does play.
With two high-powered offenses, you may have to resort to the running game a little bit more. And I think Jaden Hart of Michigan City with Xavier Williams, who did not play against Crown Point earlier this year, I think Jaden Hart's probably the best player Crown Point's going to face all year on the offensive side. So they got to really key in on him. City, I think the keys for Crown Point, first and foremost, they got to get off to a hot start. I think Chesterton was the slowest of their starts as of probably this whole year. Miscues all around, turnovers left and right. I think they got to turn it down, tone it down against a solid City team. But as great as Crown Point is on the road, I think they're probably even better at home, and they've shown it this year. And I think they do it again. I think it's going to be a close game, like you said, but I'll take Crown Point I'll go 10 on this one.
Top 10 matchup. Now time for our final game to discuss. It's one of our game nights built by Von Tobel. Griffith at number 8. Wheeler, we talked about how a Wheeler win really gives them some type of accomplishment they haven't had in a while. It's really big for them just because, this team, like you said, started from the bottom. Now we're here. I mean, that's how they've been.
Jersey.
That's, 0-3. Now they're 5-3. GSSC South title with a win, first since I believe 2015. I believe,
check our notes.
Nick Testa, his first year. Yep. We have Bryce Compton, the receiver. This is a team that's really well balanced on the Griffith side of things. This is a very young and experienced team, but they are playing a lot better than people expected. And Jackson Lawson is a beast. You want to talk about a guy who really can put a team on his shoulders, literally, and run the football? It's Jackson Lawson. I mean, last week, he scored every point for Griffith last week. He had 2 touchdowns and a 2-point conversion. Griffith only had 15 points last week. 133 rushing yards, I believe, 26 carries. He's been the guy. Can't forget about Colton Strezzo, the quarterback, another guy to defense. Drew Ellis is one of the guys. He's had an impressive year, a junior as well for Griffith. It's going to be a test because it is a decent drive for them as well. You're kind of going near that Valpo area, not downtown, but it's kind of near like Deep River Water Park.
West side,
just about
like
over
the
there.
Four Seasons
the Four Seasons area. So for Griffith, they've got a lot on their hand, but for Wheeler, you're at home, brand new stadium. I mean, it's the first year they're playing under it. And they feel really good about themselves. We talked about how this 5-game winning streak isn't just close wins. They're dominating competition. And one of those wins on that 5-game winning streak was against one of our top 10 teams, the Boone Grove Wolves. And we've talked about weeks how impressive they are and how hard it is to beat them. Well, the Wheeler Bearcats have done that. And we know that they can pass the ball and they can run the ball. And I'm excited to see this one because we have 2 different types of offenses. We talk about Griffith, they're going to ground and pound. But for Wheeler, the aerial attack has really come alive for this one.
Yeah, you got it. I think although it's week 9 and senior nights are being celebrated all over, the area, I think this could very well be a junior night. These are 2 of, again, like we said earlier, the better junior teams in the area. Griffith, again, 1 senior. Wheeler has the 3-headed backfield and offensive backfield of Klimzak, Ortiz, and Compton, who are all juniors. But it's going to be a fun one. I think the weather, again, pending, it benefits Griffith. I say Jackson Lawson, again, tuning out to be one of the best junior running backs, maybe just running backs in the area, if not the conference. But it's Wheeler's hot right now. And, again, I think them being at home, they're kind of a different beast as well. They beat a solid Boone Grove team at home, and I think they get off to a hot start again. And I'm going to go with Wheeler, who wins their first division title. Oh, we're going to go with the Wheeler green.
We're going to go green. We went orange. We went orange with Westside. We're going to change the colors a little bit.
Don't get it twisted. The Wheeler green here. They're going to win on their senior night. And again, Nick Testa caps off a magical regular season, I think, for Wheeler. Griffith, I think they got to keep it close. We're going to talk about probably the keys to the game when we get there on our kickoff show tomorrow. But it's, again, Wheeler start hot. Griffith, you got to chew the clock a little bit. You can't let Wheeler get too far in front of you. And Wheeler, you can't get caught up in the moment. Again, emotions are riding high. There's a lot to play for. A lot of teams are banking on your defeat. A lot of division teams are scoreboard watching you, I bet. And it's all eyes are on you that night. Close out the year and, again, cap off the worst to first campaign. And again, we're happy to be there. It's one of our game nights built by Von Tobel, and it's our first game covering there at their new field. That's going to be a fun one.
It's our first time we're doing a game of Wheeler and Griffith. We haven't streamed any of those teams yet, so I'm sure both of those teams will be excited. And I know we are very excited just because Griffith, always fun to see them play. Phil Mason, one of the best head coaches in the area. Of course, like you said, Wheeler, with the magical story, the magic that's going on for that school with Nick Testa in his first year. I'm really excited to see that team play just because it is a beautiful football field. And with the lights, it's one of those football fields that's in the middle of nowhere. So it's like almost like a Field of Dreams kind of atmosphere. You got middle of nowhere, but you got the bright lights, you got the field, and you got the fans there.
If you build it, they will come, they say. So.
And they built it, and they have come. And we're coming.
We're coming. We're there. So.
We're coming for the first time this year. I'm really excited. Once again, one of our game nights built by Von Tobel. That'll be a video broadcast, of course, as we're concluding today's Region Football Weekly, week number 9. Mike, any final words before we wrap things up on this Thursday night and get everyone ready for Friday night football?
Week 9, man. Bundle up. Stay
Yeah,
dry. It's
absolutely.
A lot of rain in the forecast, but again, let's have some fun. I say this kind of every week, but take it all in. It's senior night for a lot of these home teams out here that are maybe haven't celebrated. I know some schools do it in the earlier parts of the season, but take it all in. It's fun, but then once the ceremony's over, it's time to play some ball. So we're expecting a lot of good games this week, and it's end the regular season already. It flies by just like that. So it's been fun over here, but let's have a good one.
Absolutely. A big thank you to our executive producer, Chris Ramirez, our operations manager, Rich Castillo, our coordinating producer, Claude Martinez, our producer, Zach Zanelli, Mike Dewan, always sitting right next to me. And, of course, a big thank you to you, all the viewers or listeners, for watching and listening to today's show and all the shows that we've done over the year. It's been a blast, talking football with everybody of the Region Sports family, and we hope you've enjoyed these shows over the course of the past months. But we're not done yet. We're going to keep going on through postseason as well. But this edition of Region Football Weekly will conclude in our Sentier Bank studios as you're watching us on the Region Sports Network, the only game in town.